5, 4, 3,
2, 1. Let's do this.
This is ProWrestling UnCut. With your host, Cole Dawson.
Biggest icon in wrestling.
Ron KilBourn.
Whose house? Die Hard is not a Christmas movie.
Let's do this.
Welcome back to another exciting episode of Pro Wrestling Uncut. I am your host, Cole Dawson. And with me, as always, my tag team partner and my good friend, Ron KilBourn. How you doing today, sir?
Hi.
And joining us occasionally, our friend, DJ Barbecue, still with us. Charles, how the hell are you?
I'm doing great, grand, and wonderful.
All right, so he's on mute for the rest of the episode. Now we can get into some stuff. I guess top of the show this last weekend, we all witnessed the WarGames. I know there's a lot of, rumors and this and that going on out there about my sister. Her and Johnny both ended up in the emergency room, as seen on their social medias and stuff. So she's doing okay. I think they're still trying to figure out what the severity is, but hopefully it's not a long-term injury. I think as far as I know, you'll still see her on Wednesday night, guys. So stay tuned, and I appreciate all the thoughts and prayers. And I saw some of Candace's social media, and there were a lot of people, hoping she wasn't hurt and asking and sending out stuff, and that's always much appreciated. That kind of thing has helped a lot this year through surgeries and COVID and all that. The support really does mean a lot, people, just so that you understand out there. So my sister's fine. Let's go with that. She's not dead. She didn't break any ribs. She just, didn't collapse a lung. She walked out of there. So, other news this past week, since we talked, when was the last time we talked? Before Thanksgiving? No, since then, right?
Undertaker episode.
That's right.
Undertaker.
Did do an Undertaker.
Had a little bit of a fun episode. Not really newsworthy. Just kind of caught up and talked about the dead man after his retirement. We'll definitely get into WarGames, but we should probably touch on just briefly AEW Winter's Coming, because that was a pretty stacked show with a lot of groundbreaking, newsworthy wrestling moments. One of which we had a pretty big debut that week.
Yes, I was out and about and didn't have the chance to see this, and some asshole gets in my DMs and is like, "Oh my God, guys, it's Sting on your TV!" Now my other co-host over here, Ronald, was like, chills, bro, was like very quiet about what happened. He sent that first text like, "Just in case you're not watching, this is amazing." And I was like, "What happened, bro? I'm not home because my nephew's car broke down." And he was like, "Well, I liked it, so," and left it at that. But DJ Barbecue over here, Captain Spoiler Extraordinaire, is like, "Oh my God, Sting, man, it's amazing." So I will officially accept your apology now for spoiling Sting for me.
I'm sorry.
And thank you, Ron, for giving me the non-spoiler "I'm jizzing my pants" text, though. That was nice.
Well, that's how I roll, because wrestling, as I have compared it to a lot of times, is my soaps. I watched my grandmother watch her soaps all her life, and this is my soaps, and I like to live a spoiler-free wrestling fandom. So I like to kind of pay that forward.
I know. Mark Boy over here got way too excited about Stinger, and I appreciate that. And even though it was spoiled for me, I still had a little bit of awesome when the debut happened, because, the music hit and it started snowing and it was really cool. And it was like, all right, it's Sting. But then I heard, just for a brief second, Tony Schiavone was like, "Oh my God." And I heard him and I was like, "Oh my God, Tony Schiavone's going to do It's Sting." And I was more excited about that than I would have been just Sting being there in general. So that was definitely the highlight for me. And I genuinely I got giddy, actually legit started kind of giggling like a little girl, knowing that Tony Schiavone was about to say it's Sting.
Yeah, I got in my wrestling time machine, and I was hopping up and down in my chair, just like when I sent you chills, I legit had chills, just because this is like wrestling, professional wrestling at its best. He went out there and did nothing at all. All he did was just look badass, walk to the ring, and then said everything to all four guys in the ring without saying anything. He went right up to Arn and had that stare down, and you just needed the commentators to do what they were supposed to do, and they did a great job at just telling the story. Every time he went up to someone, they talked about him and Arn's history. Then he went over to both the Rhodes kids and kind of had like a little combination nod to both of them. But like for whatever reason, when he went up to Darby, I was like, yes, this is how you make somebody. Like Darby Allin's more over now in just one stare down than he's ever been with me his entire AEW run.
Oh, for sure. And like Darby is kind of one of the guys you would tab out of the group of the unknowns, let's call them, that AEW started with. That's just like, this guy's got something. He could really be something. And they've handled it very well from the beginning. I think even his series of matches with Cody was handled really well. Cody won. He beat Darby. Yeah, because he should, because he's Cody and Darby's Darby. But like throughout the three matches, they showed like the Darby's getting closer, he's a little bit special. And when for him to finally win the TNT title at the end, it was I thought it was well handled. And then to rub him up against Sting, I think it's brilliant. I think they've handled that girl. Darby Allin is probably the best booked wrestler at AEW so far for me.
He's definitely like their, because you got when AEW started, it was basically the elite making their promotion. So I feel like Darby Allin's like the homegrown AEW star, if you want to call it that. Everyone else is like from New Japan, Bullet Club, Elite, and then they just kind of morphed into AEW. But as far as like AEW's conception and them growing their stars, it's got to be Darby Allin.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely the biggest, has gotten the most rubs so far. But I mean, you could argue it's either him or MJF. But at the same time, MJF now is doing the dance numbers with Jericho, so like whatever.
Well, he's on the other side of the coin. They're doing the slower build of a dominant heel with him, and they're doing a slow build of Darby as the face. I could see MJF and Darby being like the two main guys, like face and heel down the road.
Yeah, and then Sammy Guevara is another guy who's been really in Jungle Boys. It's like they have four really talented young people. I really would like to see more Brian Pillman Jr. too. Like the few times he's been on TV, just looking at him, he stands out because he looks like a real wrestler. He looks like an athlete. He just looks bigger than all the other guys, even though he's, not a huge man. And he just looks impressive to me. He's got it. He's got the it factor. And so I'd like to see him more, but that's like five guys that are in their young 20s that are all there at the same time. I like where they're at. I feel like there's no chance those guys aren't going to end up in a WWE ring at some point, even in the near future. But I think all five of them could be big stars. So if nothing else, AEW has presented a lot of new stars, and they've done a pretty good job of building them.
Yeah, the future is bright for the future stars, but let's talk about the current stars and what happened between the current stars at Winter is Coming, and that is we have a new AEW World Champion with a little bit of controversy in Kenny Omega.
It was fun. I think it was about a month ago they had Don Callis on. And it was just like, oh, that's cool that they got Don Callis on for the pay-per-view, and he's, calling Kenny's match. All right. And so here he was again, and I was like, okay, I like my wrestler radar went up in my head. Like, they're gonna do something with Impact, right? Like, they have to be doing something. And then the match happened, and I'm like, I know Kenny's winning this match, so like there was really no big surprise for me leading up to it. But as soon as Don Callis walked down to the ring, it was like, okay, it's definitely happening now. They're, he's gonna be involved, and maybe they'll do some crossover or whatever. So Don Callis is here, and so they're going to mention Impact more. Like, and then they won the belt, and then they started sprinting away from the ring, and I was like, oh God, they're going to do an invasion angle. They're going to do something. So here we're recording on Tuesday night now, and Impact is about 10 minutes from starting. I'm hoping it's the first promo on the show. If it is, we may hit pause for a second so I can watch that, and we can add that to this conversation before we're done here today. But I think, what do you think about Impact and AEW doing some kind of crossover?
I love it. They're really doing something that I've wanted WWE to do for so long. Like, they could have, like, I just hope this opens the door for more possibilities. Like, I hope, NXT, and like, would it be crazy if NXT and New Japan just kind of started doing it together? That would be insane. Or if AEW just caused one giant super group amongst all of the top wrestling promotions. There's just so many possibilities, and you want to talk about fantasy booking? Whoever's running that's going to have a freaking ball.
Oh, for sure. And I think that's really what happened for All In, what started this idea of AEW is Ring of Honor and New Japan and Lucha Underground, and like every, kind of mainstream wrestling promotion that's outside of WWE all got together and put on a hell of a show. And it basically was good enough to ignite what's been happening, and we got a whole other promotion out of it. And I was kind of hoping that when AEW was announced, they'd get in with Ring of Honor and whoever else. But at the same time, we have to understand that Ring of Honor and Impact are also owned by billion-dollar companies that have TV stations and want their product on their TV station. So right when you started talking about that, I was like, wouldn't it? Yeah. If WWE decides, okay, if everyone wants to get together, we're going to go find New Japan. Like, that would be insane if they did New Japan and WWE crossover. Like, if they did something, AJ Styles and Okada, Daniel Bryan and Okada. Why would I skip right over Daniel Bryan? Like, oh my God.
I mean, just Jericho going to New Japan initially to face Kenny was such huge news that it would pale in comparison to what a crossover between the two. Like, even if WWE went to the Tokyo Dome, that would just be insane. That is a priceless pay-per-view.
Oh, for sure. It's a little weird because, if their full roster is there and available and healthy, then I think it's the main roster obviously is the way to go because Daniel Bryan. But if Bryan and AJ aren't there, then I'd rather it be NXT in New Japan. But
we just came up with a hell of a show concept. Fantasy New Japan versus WWE.
Hey, there we go. Well, but see, if we were gonna do that though, I'd want to do like one of the golden eras of the 90s or the 80s, with Inoki and Muda and all that, if we were going to do that. But we'll put that in the book of ideas though. So before we get to our WarGames review for the week, there was one other professional wrestling news story of the last week that broke everyone's hearts. The first ever Intercontinental Champion, the inventor of the Royal Rumble, Pat Patterson, one of the all-time great in-ring performers. If you guys haven't seen Pat Patterson, go watch it. Specifically, if you want one specific match, go watch the brawl he had at MSG with Sergeant Slaughter. It's absolutely incredible. It's a masterwork of selling and all that. So go check that out as your one to do for this week. But Hall of Famer Pat Patterson passed away this week. I read some of the reviews that the last few months have been just miserable for Pat, and he has meant so much to the wrestling business. He was Vince McMahon's right hand for 30 plus years. Him and Bruce Pritchard and Vince were the booking team for so many years through all the Hogan years, and Pat Patterson championed the idea for my favorite professional wrestling match of all time, the Iron Man match with Bret and Shawn at WrestleMania 12. Again, he invented the Royal Rumble. He is an all-time legend. He put so many guys' matches together, and his loss is heavy for anyone who knows anything about the wrestling business. And I just wanted to acknowledge the passing of Pat Patterson and tell him how much he meant to me. Hopefully he can hear it wherever he's at, and just wish the wrestling community healing. So
yeah, he doesn't really get a lot of mainstream credit for a lot of the wrestling today, because he is the finish guy for most of the best matches we've ever seen. Like, even if he's not in the ring, he's back there agenting these matches to the best possible outcome. And the peak of my fandom, he was a stooge, and even the Stooges stuff he did with Briscoe was hilarious.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that one of our fellow podcasters, Conrad Thompson, always talks about, is the difference in age when you're talking about the 90s and now. And so the Stooges, Briscoe and Patterson were like in their 40s, like, when they were doing the Stooges, and looking like old man. It's like,
I want to say 50s probably.
Well, no, but that's what I'm saying. They were relatively young still. I mean, They were like late. I believe one of them was because Pat Patterson was 70 something. So we're talking.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're talking. So he was in his late 40s.
Yeah.
And Briscoe was maybe 50, 51. And now when you talk about guys in their 40s, you're talking Christopher Daniels is 50. Like Chris Jericho's 50. So like, it's just it's one of those things you look back and like, oh man, those guys were so old. And it's like, no, they weren't that old. They still had good, they still would have had good years in them if they really wanted to wrestle. And that's one of the cool things about the that's changed in the business is, AJ Styles is in his 40s and people think he's in his prime.
Yeah. See, that thing differently when I go, oh, Jericho's 50? Fuck, I'm 34.
Yeah.
I start to feel old.
Yeah, it's mostly younger people that do it for me, but peace be the journey to Pat Patterson, and from one brilliant mind to another, we had a little bit of a Dusty Rhodes creation here, if you will. And I appreciate that NXT has really embraced Dusty Rhodes. I know he was such a big part of the performance center down there, and the training and learn, especially but everybody too. Dusty trained writers. Like, Dusty was great, and WarGames was one of his inventions. And it's fun when things like this happen. I just want to talk about WarGames style matches before we get into this pay-per-view, because it's a thing. It's one of those trends in wrestling that has just been killing me for the last 15, 20 years. Like, WarGames was cool and it worked because they had 8 guys that needed a gimmick, and they came up with a gimmick, and the guys were great for it. And the match was such a smash hit, and it made such great money, and it sold out everywhere. They did WarGames, became an annual tradition. And so after the first one where you had a match that needed a gimmick, now you got a gimmick that needs a match, and then shit just gets thrown together for a couple weeks. And look, here you go. Next thing, you've got this clusterfuck women's match where there's 4 and 4. We don't even know who the team members are going to be 2 weeks before the pay-per-view because none of these people team together. None of these people have relationships together, and we just got to throw it together. So it just seems a little contrived at this point, but it's the same thing for me for Hell in a Cell or any of that stuff where it's like, oh, well, it's time for the Hell in the Cell pay-per-view. Oh, well, it's time for the TLC pay-per-view. And then you just throw guys into a match and there's no meaning. It's something that bothers me. Where are you on this, Ron?
I am in the same boat. I like, the debut of Elimination Chamber, they did such great storytelling at the time that all 6 guys were intertwined in this blood feud, and the only way to settle the score was evil Eric Bischoff had to make this chamber to hold this amount of violence and to see who would come out the winner. Like, it escalated to that, and before they made the actual pay-per-view, they had feuds that would escalate to that. They used to have feuds that would escalate to a Hell in a Cell or a WarGames, like you said. So yeah, no, I think like it feels very thrown together, and I feel like when October comes around, they go, oh shit, we better start booking for WarGames. It's November next month.
Yeah,
and then they just kind of throw people together. I will say that, nothing against the women, but every year they've had a long, consistent storyline that led to WarGames. I felt like that the 3 male WarGames matches all have had a consistent story leading up to it months in advance. So we'll get there. But no, I'm with you. I feel like all the gimmick matches are watered down because they have their own pay-per-view now. TLC is another one.
Yep. So yeah, the only gimmick pay-per-view that works and still works is the freaking Royal Rumble. But they've done such a good job of establishing that when you win the Royal Rumble, you actually fucking get something. And it's really, to me, winning the Royal Rumble is like the real championship at this point because it's the only thing that kind of matters. And people, I think, even the lapsed fans will come up and watch Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. So it matters who wins Royal Rumble. And maybe if it's like, Roman winning for the 17th time, you don't watch WrestleMania, but
oh, come on. He's only won once.
Oh, okay. It's Stone Cold Steve Austin. But
you would shit your pants.
Everyone would shit their pants if Stone Cold came in and won the Royal Rumble right now. Like, you want to talk about the biggest story in the last 30 years of professional wrestling, that would be it. Charles has his hand raised all politely waiting for me to call on him. So you want to get in here, Charles?
Okay, so a little update. We're not going to have to take yeah, right? We're not going to have to take a pause, though. They're not going to have that. I'm not going to, go ahead and spoil it early. Those that didn't see it, yes, I cannot spoil things. But yeah, they're not doing that right away. They got 14 seconds before show started, and they did post a tour bus showing up, but it was like reverse psychology.
Okay.
It showed it was showing up in Tennessee. So
I just want to touch on this. So Ron said if it was him, this would be the first thing they booked, right? And I was sitting here going, if they're fucking smart, they're going to tease this promo throughout the entire fucking show, and they're going to keep showing, like they're going to show the bus with Kenny or whatever.
Right.
See, the show is just opening. They're showing what happened on AEW, which means specifically we already confirmed right now 100% they are working together if they're sharing footage. So they're opening with what happened on AEW last week, Kenny and Moxley. So if it does pop up, we'll talk about it. If not, I'll just keep it at a little corner of my eye there. But let's get into WarGames.
I just like to say their Twitch stream right now views is going like crazy.
Oh, I'm
all
sure.
of a sudden it went from 7,000 to 25,000 and counting. Like it just jumped up to 30 right now.
Yeah.
This might break their Twitch stream.
Oh, good for them. But yeah, this is one of those things. Is like I felt like this is maybe the only way to get Impact any kind of attention anymore. There's not much because I mean, there's not going to be a big name that goes to Impact anytime soon. Do you think? I mean, it's in at least AEW's on cable on a network people know exists. So
I've honestly, you know, I feel bad. I haven't watched a lot of Impact. I know the Good Brothers are there, and that's a thing. You got Sami Callihan, who's, you know, controversial and always in the news. I don't think Tessa Blanchard's there anymore.
No, she's very much not. She left and held up the title and shit and held it for ransom like $150,000, something like that. At least that's a story I read on the interwebs, whether or not that's actually true. But yeah, it did not end well with Tessa Blanchard in Impact.
Well, I mean, I guess she didn't offer much to the argument that a woman can hold that title.
Right. But, you know, I think you know, there was more to the story, but I think a lot of it was the quarantine and everything. They shut down, and it was just, it was during all that. And yeah. But there's a lot of stories about Tessa Blanchard's attitude out there. So,
yeah.
So, speaking of awesome women wrestlers, let's talk about WarGames. Hey!
Yes.
So, this WarGames opened up with my favorite match, my favorite wrestler, my sister, Team Candice LeRae versus Team Shotzi. And Team Shotzi featured Ember Moon, Rhea Ripley, and Io Shirai. And Candice had Toni Storm. Oh my God, Toni Storm, I love you so much. You're the best thing in wrestling. Toni Storm, I love you. And Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez. So, what did you think of this match, Ronald?
It was fun. I watched with a very critical eye, and I also watched with rose-colored lenses, just because I love watching Candice on a big stage and doing what she does best. But what I thought was funny was that Shotzi Blackheart comes in on her turn and makes this whole deal about getting a crowbar and a toolbox. And the very first thing she does with the weapons that she brought into this ring is just kind of stash them in the corner. you best believe if I'm bringing a crowbar into the ring, I'm using it. And, I'm not just going to go and just kind of put that over there. So, yeah, that kind of had me scratching my head. But spot of the match was definitely Io putting that trash can over her body and just kind of crust falling off of the cage, just hoping everyone's not going to be a dick.
Yeah. See, spot of the match for me was Io in the trash can part 2, where Dakota Kai hits that mean double stop and closes the trash can shut, so Io can't get out of the trash can, and then Dakota has to rip her out of the trash can to get her out so she could cover her.
Dakota Kai is a beast too. I mean, she took a sledgehammer to the back from Rhea Ripley and still kept going.
Oh, yep.
That infuriated me. But her beast mode comment was drenched in sarcasm. No, if you're gonna take a mini sledgehammer to the back, no, you took it to the front, right? In the ovaries, and then
right in the ovaries, and then right on the spine.
Yeah, you should be gone.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, there were a couple logic flaws, I'll give you that, but overall, it's nice to just see good women's matches like these. Most of the time, as soon as you add more than 2 girls in a match, it turns into a clusterfuck, and it can be awful. I remember I want to say it was a women's tag team elimination chamber match a year or two ago, right? Your face. Yes, your face told that story. You don't remember the match, but you heard me pitch it and you went, ooh.
Yeah. No, I remember the match. That's what prompted the face.
Yeah.
But no, like you ever watch an elimination chamber match and hope that one of the pods don't open?
Yes, that match. It's one of those things. It's one of the main reasons. Excuse me. That women don't succeed in wrestling is that guys don't treat them the same when they're coming up, and so they don't, like, the women are new to having these opportunities with 8 female tags. Like, they've never done this before, especially a lot of the main roster girls that leapfrog the pile aren't actually professional wrestlers, that got signed. They were models or athletes of some sort that got a contract, and WWE taught them how to wrestle. So they are really green in the business, on top of the fact that there's just not a lot of opportunities for these style matches for women. And then all of a sudden they're trying to do these work rate, crazy, high-paced 45-minute matches where they're putting everything together. And you could tell they get in there and they're just walking through stuff and trying to remember what they're supposed to do. And then it turns into a clusterfuck. But this WarGames match was fucking fantastic. Nobody ever looked like they were lost. Everyone fucking fought their ass off the whole time. I really liked this women's WarGames match, and it helped that my kids were sitting there the whole time. Were like, "This is a really good match, Dad. This is really good." So that made me happy, just on top of my own satisfaction. So I gave this match an A- in my book. So
yes, very good opening match. I was very excited to see that Candice is undefeated in WarGames.
Boom. 2-0, baby. 2-0. So after that match, we got a nice little promo from Finn Balor. That was fun. That was cute, saying, hey, once this WarGames bullshit's over, I'm going to kill everybody. Did you want to chime in, Charles? Did I miss you there?
Yes, I just want to gloat that I kept saying that you never bet against Candice LeRae, and everybody kept telling me that I was, full of shit and that Shotzi's team was going to win. Well, take that. You never bet against Candice LeRae.
Yeah.
Unless it's a title match.
Tell the Shotzi fan.
Ooh, shots fired.
Shotzi's fired.
Well, that's how I felt at the end of that match. Shotzi could go fucking away, but, accidents happen, guys. It wasn't malicious. But, once Big Brother went away and I could get my rational thought back. Go ahead.
Do you think Candice looked at her and just said, "Tanks"?
Oh, the irony.
Thanks.
Oh. Ron-stoppable comedy.
Dad jokes. Speaking of the WarGames, when Candice took that wrench and applied that submission hold, that prompted my favorite dad joke of the night was Candice really wrenched that submission.
Yes, I did appreciate that.
But speaking of wrenching submissions, the next match.
Oh, look at you. Go ahead.
Yeah, we went from the Gargano way to the Segway.
Oh, he's unstoppable.
He's raw on fire.
Oh, he's raw on a roll.
Yes. But yes, no, we got Timothy Thatcher versus Tommaso Champa. And it was one of those matches where I was like, now this is wrestling. It's taking place right in the center of the ring. Timothy Thatcher has the best facial expressions in professional wrestling, in my opinion. Way better than anybody going today. Like, every time I see that guy, it looks like he's about to just bite his teeth off. And he just looks like he just gargles asphalt for a living. And just most grungiest, just shooter style. They haven't been really booking him all that well, but man, there's just so much money on the table every time that dude locks horns with somebody. I'm a big Timothy Thatcher fan.
Yeah, I like him too. He's he's my style of wrestler. Yeah, no nonsense, hard hitting submissions. Like, just everything's logical, everything makes sense. He is right down my alley. Like, he's like the stereotypical, if I was going to do wrestling, my perfect wrestling heel guy, Timothy Thatcher, just like flies out a little chute, and it's like, and so I love it. And Tommaso is one of my favorite performers in the world. And so I had nothing but excitement for this match. And they even made the submissions look stiff and mean. Like, they were like, this was just brilliant. This is my style. They got me. Like, this is A+ stuff for me. Although I will say, in the moment, I was still a little worried about, the happenings in the first match. So I'm going to be fair to the audience. I was distracted the rest of this pay-per-view. So it's just like, that's just real talk. I was worried, like, because my sister even texted my daughter, like, I definitely broke my arm. So, like, she feared the worst immediately. So, level of fairness and full disclosure, I was a little distracted during this pay-per-view, but I love this fucking match, and I love Tommaso. Oh, and then on to things that I don't love. Dexter motherfucking Lumis. This is the second strap match this motherfucker has had where they were like 20 minutes into the match and nobody's been hit with this fucking strap yet. And it's like, I can't. I'm done. Like, if Dexter Lumis is in a strap match, I'm fucking Jeff Jarretting his ass and I'm skipping it. I'm over this guy. I'm over this gimmick. Is like, Cameron Grimes does everything in his power to make this shit work, because, like, he may be the only guy in the business. Every time I see him, I go, I just want to punch this fucking guy in the face. But his selling and his just flamboyance and his over the top shit is entertaining as hell. But not to the point where it's hokey and like he's just the perfect amount of cheese on his selling. But I fucking hated this match. What did you think?
I am not a Dexter Lumis fan. I've made that very clear. He is at the top of my fast forward playlist, and but I love Cameron Grimes, and now I'm to the point where I've watched this feud just to see how Cameron Grimes can make this work. And I was kind of impressed with this match in the sense that Cameron Grimes got a lot of offense in. I thought he was just going to run away from him the whole time, much like that cinematic abortion we watched a couple months ago. I love Cameron Grimes. I don't think this is the right way to display Sam Shaw, who portrays Dexter Lumis. He had a really good TNA run. I liked his work there. I wish he was there right now while this whole crossover thing's happening, but now he's Dexter Lumis, and we just kind of have to live with it until someone gets bored over there. But this was kind of this was the let me up match. This was the match in between all the great stuff, because this was a 5-match card, and I felt like if there was anything to put right in the middle, it had to be this match.
I agree with its placements on the card. Well, I don't, because I think this would be better served for not on the card and not ever have to be watched by anybody. But whatever. Then the announcers were talking for something. I think that was happening, and then the lights went all wacky, and we got a really cool, like, dark and scary, ominous music. The lights went out, and it was like just glowing, and then we got like, we're all going, what the fuck? And then it was like tick-tock, and I'm like, oh, okay, Karrion Kross is coming back. Cool. He had a good run the first time, so that was nice. I like that they weave these into their pay-per-views. So maybe someone will watch the TV show. Promotion. Good stuff.
Yes, I'm excited for Karrion Kross's return. I felt bad for the guy because he debuted during the COVID season,
Right?
And then just got so over on the internet, on YouTube, and all that jazz as like the top dominant heel. Even their crazy, and it's funny, them being COVID grown, that's when they really got over the top with entrances, and they were the main one. Their entrance really sparked a lot of talk to their gimmick, and it worked out for them. They went straight for the title and took it off of Keith Lee, and then happened to get injured, which sucks. But I think he'll be on that trajectory going right after Finn Balor when he comes back.
Yeah, for sure. I'm mostly excited that Scarlett is going to grace my TV screen again very soon, and she is the most attractive human I've ever met in person. So there is that. I'm excited. Oh my goodness. I understand what they're trying to do here. Okay. So this was fun to embarrass my brother-in-law, Johnny Gargano. It was great. But why did Leon Ruff have so much offense in this match with Damian Priest and Johnny? I love when they finally disposed of him and just cast him off like a piece of shit later in the match when they finally cut him off 15 minutes into the match. But the whole point is that this dude has no business beating Johnny and it was a fluke. Why does everybody have to be treated seriously? There are some people like Marco Stunt. If you make Johnny look like a large human, you are too small to be a world champion. So what the fuck? What's going on here?
Well, the gimmick, I mean, they're telling the story exactly the way you're interpreting it. This guy doesn't have a chance, and they're making it to where this lottery ticket winner fluke does actually happen. Johnny got cocky, invited this kid out to fight him, even kind of hammed up to the camera, clapping for him, and then he freaking loses on a fluke. And they didn't take him seriously at all. Even when they put the title on him, they had him stand in a way where it would actually slide off of him. So even NXT was selling the fact that he's too small to really be a champion, and they're training the audience to have that same opinion too, but at the same time cheer for the kid, I want to see him do well. Still, it's not the best comparison, but when they debuted Santino Marella to beat Umaga for the Intercontinental title, now that size difference, it's not the exact same, but there was as big of a size difference between Umaga and Santino as Johnny and Ruff. So I get what they were trying to do, and I like that they did give him offense, but I like that it wasn't competitive. If he did get offense, he jumped off the top rope. Their back was turned. They caught him off guard. They didn't give him any dominant offense, and I thought the thread of the story was told very well, to the point where Priest was telling him, hey, just stay out of my way. Even he's acknowledging that you don't deserve to be here. Just let me do my work, and you go over there and just be lucky you're on this card. I thought that was good for the story as well, and the finish was pretty awesome too. I do like the quote that. Well, let's get into it. Austin Theory makes his return as the official screen guy, official Ghostface guy, and he threw out the line of the century, quoting Mr. McMahon when he was revealed as the higher power. It was me, Austin. It was me, Austin, all along.
Oh,
yeah. I don't even think he was old enough to have seen that.
No, maybe not live.
Yeah, I don't even think he was alive when that happened. I'm pretty sure someone told him 3 years old. No, you're taking your mask off. And your name's Austin. You know what I mean? No, I wasn't alive in '98. Because Austin Theory is 22.
Yeah, 21. He's 24.
24.
Okay. So he was alive, but he hadn't reached the age where like he could remember things. So like
23. So he definitely wasn't he definitely wasn't of age to remember that.
See something from 22 years ago.
Yeah.
Man.
But I did give the whole like, nah, see what you did there. I remember that.
Okay. I got a little distracted because Tony Khan and Tony Schiavone are on my TV right now telling people to watch Dynamite tomorrow night. I can't hear what's going on because I'm, talking to you guys, but it's pretty silly. They've got like the old school NWA like backdrop. It's kind of awkward. But yeah, cool. Watch All Elite Wrestling Dynamite tomorrow night on TNT and find out what's happening, guys. I'm sure the networks actually are loving this. Like Access TV absolutely has to be thrilled that TNT is telling them to go watch their channel.
Yeah, getting traffic.
So yeah, I again not listening, but 100% confirmed. These guys are working together now. It's not just a one-off. They're advertising all the AEW matches for tomorrow night, the Young Bucks and the Hybrids and all this. They've been on TV for a really long time, guys. Like this is like a 4-minute segment of Tony Schiavone and Tony Khan saying, "Hey, watch our shit." Oh.
Yeah, no.
So,
go over there and ransack their women's division because they need them.
Right. That's crazy. So to put a bow on this wonderful triple threat for the North American Championship, the line of the night goes to my daughter, Victoria. First, it was the massive celebration and screams when Uncle Johnny once again regained his North American Championship. And then after she's done, she's like, "Dad, text Uncle Johnny and tell him try not to lose it the first week this time." So, what's happening?
I'm back.
Oh, okay.
I never left. I had to put my phone on the charger.
I just saw you freak out for a second.
I was at 1%. I was gonna be gone.
Yeah, I thought this match was great, but definitely Victoria, Uncle Johnny, try not to lose it the first week this time was my line of the night. So look at Charles over there deep in thought, looking at his texties. So before we get to the main event, Charles, what was your overall feelings on WarGames?
I liked it. The strap match was too long. There's a lot of funny, like Ron and I were kind of having some fun with some other people with every time that they said strap, you just, took a shot or you just made up something sarcastic. But everything was pretty well for a pay-per-view. Was a little surprised it was Sunday, but to go back and rewind what you weren't listening to, basically Tony Khan and Tony, the TTs were talking trash during that time where it was advertising and giving Don Callis and Kenny Omega the what for.
Got it.
So Callis was being talked to by a couple of titties.
Yeah. And now there's a piece of shit on my TV, so we don't need to talk about Impact anymore. So, on to the main event. I like how I gave Charles a minute to tell us about WarGames, and he told us about what was happening on Impact. So he's obviously not listening to us tonight. We'll come back to you in a bit, Charles. You can tell us what you think when we're done discussing the main event. Undisputed Era versus quickly growing to be the number one heel in the wrestling business, Pat McAfee, Pete Dunne, Oney Lorcan, and Danny Burch. I'll let you give us your thoughts on this match first, Ronald.
I was very happy with this WarGames match. Like I said at the top of the show, I feel like the male WarGames has had a consistent good story. That's also because I'm pretty sure the Undisputed Era has been in all of them, and I believe that's correct. But
yes,
I was hoping that their faction ran its course, and I was hoping that they were going to do something with the whole mysterious Pat McAfee gave a car to some guy to help him out. I was hoping that this was going to be someone leaving the Undisputed Era, but no, it was just a dominant, feel-good payoff performance by the Undisputed Era. I thought Kyle O'Reilly was an absolute beast in the match to start it, and just kept going at a high level the whole match. He's my favorite member of the Undisputed Era, quickly growing to be so after Adam Cole. Yeah, loved the match, loved the finish. I was a little shocked as to how much offense Pat McAfee was able to take.
He took a lot of bumps.
For who he is. Yeah, for him to get 2 crazy false finishes, kicking out of the Panama Sunrise and a big ass table bump, I can't imagine Lawrence Taylor kicking out of that stuff if they had attempted that. if they attempted that in 95.
Yeah, I would say Lawrence Taylor was probably not in the best shape of his life at that moment. he barely got Bam Bam up for that power bomb at the end of that match. So
oh yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I think Pat McAfee might be, he's on par with Floyd Mayweather as the best guest spot wrestler. But I think Pat is not going to be a guest spot. I think he's going to be around. He's going to be part of the company for a little while. I feel like he's going to do something at Mania that maybe this might not be a 1 or 2 off opportunity, but really for me, it's Pat McAfee and Floyd Mayweather, the only ones who really pulled it off seamlessly and had a great wrestling match.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want to throw Ronda in there. If she would have left immediately after that tag match, then you might have been putting her on there.
Yeah.
But I think that's one of the best debuts ever. that tag match was perfect by that Ronda.
Yeah. Well, for a celebrity wrestler. See, I don't know. Like MMA, at least, with her judo background, you would think, okay, Ronda will probably adjust to this pretty well. Like boxers is another thing because they don't grapple and they don't do all that. So, like, they have no point of reference for how to fall or be safe. Like, you don't learn any of that. So, like, at least, with someone who's in MMA or judo, I know they learned how to roll and bump and do all that stuff because if you're going to get slammed, you got to know how to kind of try to soften the blow if you can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Boxers typically don't do well, but Floyd, it was the highest paid for WrestleMania still. It was the last one, and him and Big Show went out and did a great job. And we don't talk about the Tyson Fury match. And
I didn't think that was as bad as some others did. I thought the match with Tyson Fury was actually relatively entertaining. When you think about what it could have been. So,
right, yeah, especially who he worked with too.
Yeah.
You usually task that responsibility for a very seasoned pro wrestler to walk the celebrity through it. But I love me some Strowman on occasion, but he's not. He was never close to ready for that.
No, but I think and this is me giving him credit because I fucking hate Strowman. I can't stand him. He's the drizzling shits, and I've thought so since day one. And for me to say that with Tyson Fury they pulled off something that was watchable is a huge compliment. So take that for what you will, Braun Strowman, because I know he's listening to our podcast to fucking send me hate tweets and shit. So I love every single person that was in this match. Like Adam Cole is probably the most well-rounded wrestler right now. I mean, just in general, out of anybody, promo looks great. He's fantastic in the ring. Adam Cole's in that short list for maybe the most well-rounded sports entertainer in the business right now. And I love this group because they've done a good job. You assumed once Kyle O'Reilly started kind of getting some rub and getting a little more attention than Adam Cole, that would be a natural breakup spot. But I think it's brilliant that they've just flipped the whole group babyface. Now they can go out and feud with everybody again on the other side. And I love that they're elevating different guys at different times, because Roddy was kind of the first secondary focus, and then the other guys were a tag team. Well, now even Adam Cole's taking a little bit of a step back, and Kyle O'Reilly is getting the major rub. And so, like, they're actually making individual superstars out of this group. It's not just a tag team. It's not just the one guy and everyone else. They're actually rubbing everybody, and the whole group's rising together. And so it's been fun to watch the Undisputed Era, but I'm kind of with you. I don't know how much longer this can go without them breaking up, unless they jump to the main roster. But do we want them on the main roster?
No, there's nobody on NXT that I want on the main roster. other than, you know, the only guy that's perfect, absolutely perfect for the main roster is Damian Priest.
Yeah.
He just has that WWE look. But you know, I thought Keith Lee had that same look, but you know, after what they've been doing with Keith, I don't want anybody to go.
Right. Because, you know, it's basically you have to restart your whole career over again.
Yeah.
It's so stupid. I mean, I'll never forgive them for Shinsuke Nakamura, bro. Like, I'll never forgive them, because it was the first time they brought someone up and they actually did push him. He won the freaking Rumble. Like, they were giving him the monster push all the way up until the moment of climax, and then they just like punched us in the balls instead. And so we're just stuck with this shit. And they've just been continuously kicking us in the balls over and over again. And now Nakamura, the best wrestler on the planet 5 years ago, is a mid-card comedy act. So,
and it's funny that you worded it that way, because the way they dropped the ball is by him kicking people in the balls.
Right. And so they shit the but for me, they recovered the very next night when they tried to do another broken English promo with Shinsuke and make him sound awkward and uncomfortable. And he just goes, "Sorry, no speaky English." And I was like, boom, I am back on board. They got a star, got a huge pop. It was all over the internet. I'm like, okay, maybe they didn't fuck this up. And then the next match, dick punt. And the whole feud literally became about those guys kicking each other in the balls. Yep. When a couple years earlier they had one of the greatest matches in wrestling history and set the internet on fire and all this shit. And what are they doing?
I don't know, but we're getting off on a rant here.
Oh yes, I am getting off on a rant, and I know you're strapped for time tonight. We've got about
real quick for you guys.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Charles, before we wrap this thing up.
You guys bring up a good point of, you know, they have to start over. Now, as two guys that are in the business or have been in the business, and relatives or friends or family in the business, why do you think they think us fans are that stupid not to realize that they are part of the WWE, or that they're in professional wrestling if they are in NXT and have been in the spotlight of NXT? Why do you think they try to dumb it down and make us look like idiots, like we can't comprehend the fact?
Well, I don't necessarily think that that's their thought process. I just think that, listen, pal, what you did in NXT is one thing, but what you do here is a completely other thing. And that's what I think is the deal. The writers for WWE, I don't think, are watching NXT. I don't think Vince is watching NXT. I just think that they get there's buzz going on. Hey, we need some of your guys. Who's available? They bring them up for not knowing at all what they've been doing on their show, which is why I think like they always try to repackage the guy, you know. And look at everyone who's gone up like the past year or two. You know, Ricochet was a top guy in NXT. You know, he wrestles on Superstars now. You know, Aleister Black was another heavily pushed guy. He just kind of fell off when he got to WWE. Who else? Bobby Roode. Bobby Roode, even Drew McIntyre at first. Yeah, he comes aboard and just gets delegated to Dolph's tag team partner. But thankfully that stink wore off. Andrade is another guy, missed opportunity that came up and did nothing with. Yeah, the list goes on and on. And
but that's what I'm saying. Name the guy or girl they brought up and actually did something with. Like Nikki Cross, is that it? Is she like the only one who came up to the roster and get shit all over? Like, who's the guy on their roster that they brought up from NXT and actually gave them a push?
Kevin Owens. That's about it.
They did with, but that was just going to be a given with Charlotte. And, the other original four, but other than that, they went completely sideways. Look at the War Raiders or, War Machine. They completely trashed them 3 times just with those mistakes. Like, that's the problem. They got TV writers trying to do professional wrestling. And I don't want you guys to go on any other tangents, but, you guys are wrestling the show. But I had to ask that question because it bothers me. It's like they honestly think we're that stupid that we don't understand this because you put Ricochet, Ron. He had a huge, huge rise in popularity in the indies and then through NXT. And then they just, shat on him. Okay, another one. Cedric Alexander during the Cruiserweight Classic. Huge pop, momentum, everything. He gets up to the main roster, shat on him. So anyway, go ahead and go with the rest of the show. I just had to put that point up.
Let's put a bow on that real quick and just have a little counter argument to Cedric. At least he's in the top faction on Raw right now. So there's
but that's what I'm saying. So like I don't think it's that they think we're stupid. Again, I agree with Ron on that. I think it's that Vince in his brain is so set in you're not over until you're here and I make you over. Even if you're fucking Sting, it doesn't matter what level you are, like Goldberg, all of those guys, in Vince's mind, the only place you can actually get really over is the WWE, WWF. And so he brings you up. He just knows you're not over. They don't know who the fuck you are because you weren't here. So these people don't know you and they think they can just toddle you off in the undercard. But like, remember when someone new used to come in the 90s or the 80s? And they do fucking vignettes for months or, 6-8 weeks leading up to it. And then they'd, win for 6-8 months. Like, I don't understand why they've lost the plot so much that they think you can lose 50 matches and still be a top guy. And the people are going to be rooting for you and care if you finally get a push. But so it's a combination of like, even when they brought AJ Styles in, he jobbed to freaking Chris Jericho at WrestleMania. Like, okay, like if you're never going to make one of these guys a top guy immediately, you're never going to have any top guys. They devalue everybody. They break them down to the lowest level. And then if they stuck around and they like them, then they'll give them a push finally. And they'll get a little 3-month push when they've been a jobber for a year and a half, 2 years. And they're like, oh, well, he didn't get over, so fuck him. And they're on to the next motherfucker. So, I don't know. So WarGames is good.
The next round, go ahead and go to the WarGames.
Yeah.
Last match.
We talked about it. I think that was it. I loved it. The match was great. Ron loved it. And I'm kind of torn with you, though, on whether Undisputed Era should keep going or not. I think they bought him another year now that they turned them all baby faces. Like now that the people can openly cheer for them, I think they bought him some time.
Well, as soon as traveling is better, the only other feud that they can have is with Imperium, and I would like to see Walter get in there with the Undisputed Era and work.
Can we just have Roderick Strong and Walter just chop the fuck out of each other for like 10 minutes?
That'd be fabulous.
Oh my God, that would be amazing. It would hurt from here. So, but that's all the time we have for this week, ladies and gentlemen. I know Mrs. KilBourn over there is going to murder me if I don't let her Ronald go. So he did warn us before we got in the air, ladies and gentlemen. It's not my fault.
This actually isn't wife related at all. This is nephew related.
Yeah, but it's more funny if we talk about your wife being awful than about you being an adorable uncle.
In that case, in that case, fuck her.
Yeah, fuck Mrs. KilBourn, a totally made up human. Because that's not your real name. Kayfabe! Oh, all right. DJ Barbecue Charles, would you give out all of our social media information, where the people can find us and subscribe and listen and talk to us?
Yes. So you can find us at the KotaiRadioNetWK, capitalize on Twitter, UnCutLiveShow on Twitter, and ProWresUnCut show on Twitter for these guys' show. You can at them, say hi to them, wink at them, emoji them, gift them, whatever. Even if you want to gift them, you can go ahead and go to the store, the merch, the milch, the Muno Nuno, which is bonfire.com/store/KotaiRadioNetWK/ You get all that merch, all that fun-loving stuff. We're independent. We appreciate you. You can also find us on YouTube. You can find the wonderful superstar that is Ron KilBourn on our YouTube channel at the Kotai Radio Network podcast. Just search that and you'll be entertained for hours and hours on end.
All right. Thank you for that. Do you have any parting thoughts for us, Ronald, before we go?
Well, WarGames was a fun show. I give it a thumbs up. Can't wait to review the next one. And we look forward to whatever we discuss next week.
Yes, sir. We're still kicking this around, ladies and gentlemen. We have got a time nailed down. Wednesdays. Our podcast will be dropping every Wednesday from now on, we promise. We will be recording Monday or Tuesday before that. So we might have to do a little bit of catch up from the week before on the Wednesday Night Wrestling. But we'll do our best to keep current with you guys, and we're going to be watching some pay-per-views. We're going to do a watch-along here before the end of the year because there's a little bit of argument about what the match of the year is, and Ron is forcing me to watch Drew Gulak versus Daniel Bryan, a meaningless match in the career of my hero, but apparently a brilliant one. So we're going to be watching along and talking over that match, and we definitely need a top 10 list before the end of the year, I do believe. So we'll kick around these subjects. We're whittling down our show so that it's got a set schedule, so you guys hear the same things consistently. You know what you're going to get with us. Thank you for being with us so far. Tell your friends. We're growing this podcast. It's going to be fun. It's fun every week that I get to do this, talking about what I love, professional wrestling, and my sister, Candice LeRae. So for Ron KilBourn and DJ Barbecue, I am your host, Cole Dawson, saying good night and mwah. Hold on a sec. Hold on. Sorry to interrupt our goodbyes and goodbye kisses and whatnot, but I just finished watching Impact. I watched the whole 2 hours, and we needed to interrupt our goodbyes because as soon as it finished, I went quickly to our group chat to start texting Ron and Charles here, DJ Barbecue, and they insisted that I stop talking and we hit record, and so you guys could get my review of Kenny Omega's Impact debut. So, if we go back a week, we saw Kenny Omega win the title, run out of the ring with Don Callis, and everyone's been excited for the last 6 days to watch Kenny Omega go to Impact because obviously those are the implications. Let me just say this. I really did enjoy the Tony Khan commercial where him and Tony Schiavone interrupted and pretended it was a paid spot that they bought airtime on the network and were buying a commercial to help support Impact because they needed all the help in the world. I thought this was great. This was wonderful. And then we get to the end of our show. I was glad they drug it out throughout the show. We talked about a little bit ago on the podcast that I hoped Kenny Omega was the last segment, that they kept talking about it and kept people hooked so everyone could watch the whole show. Impact was fine. It was okay. It wasn't offensive, except for what's-his-face, who cut like a 20-minute promo and was just god-awful. and has always been god-awful and should have been kicked out of the business when he broke Eddie Edwards' face. That dude can go away forever. He's not interesting. I don't like him. Get him off my TV. But anyway, so I wait for an hour and 45 minutes watching fucking Impact Wrestling. To get to the Kenny Omega Don Callis segment, cool. I made my kid shut up. I turned it up. And then Don Callis, good, stupid, cocky heel bullshit. Hold on. We got to do something important. We're going to change the nameplate on the title. And so then he kicked it over to Kenny, and Kenny Omega is quite possibly the worst fucking promo I've ever heard in my entire fucking life. This dude rambled on for 10 minutes and said abso-fucking-lutely nothing. He didn't put over Impact. He didn't commit to Impact. He just said, well, I'm here because I'm the champion and I can do whatever I want. Maybe I'll go to AAA and win one of their titles. Maybe I'll come here and win another title. I don't know. Why don't you guys watch on TNT to see what's that? So this whole segment was a week build-up for them to do a commercial, 2 commercials on Impact for AEW. Did not put Impact over one fucking bit. Did not make me want to watch this show next week. Didn't even make it sound like he was going to be there for sure. But so now for 2 episodes, they've hung me out to dry to see what's going to happen. And now I have to watch tomorrow to see what's going to happen. And if they don't set the fucking world on fire, I quit. I'm done with Kenny Omega. Fuck Kenny Omega. I'm done with AEW's bullshit. Fuck you if you're not going to do entertaining shit and tell stories. And it's your first fucking time in a promotion. Make an impact. Do something impactful. Don't pretend you're there and then never set foot in the building, not even go in the ring, just talk in an RV and then be a mark about Lex Luger and the Lex Express. Like, get out of here. You're a grown-ass man. Act like a man. You're supposed to be a fighter. Act like you're fucking tough. Stop being a goofy nerd that nobody's intimidated by, and everyone knows if it was a real fight, they could kick the ever-loving shit out of you. Like, Jesus Christ, grow a pair and act like a grown-ass man. And do something important, challenge somebody, have someone do a promo. That was the biggest waste of time in my life, and it is the worst debut I've ever seen, and it is one of the worst promos in the history of the business from a top guy. You got to do better than that. Thank you, and good night.
KotaiRadio Network is brought to you by Midwest All Pro Wrestling. Go to MidwestAllProWrestling.com and get tickets today. Remedy Brewing Company. It's the cure for what ails you. Jekyll and Hyde Barbecue. Jekyll and Hyde Barbecue makes barbecue so good, it'll put a smile on your face. And Kotai Radio Network is powered by KBack.Rock. Rock radio the way rock radio should be. Go to KBackRadio.com and listen today.